And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Mickelson. Renfro. And it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes not just cases, MotleyRice.com, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Make sure you have downloaded the app. If you haven't, ask yourself one question: why haven't I? There's no good reason if you haven't. Make sure you've downloaded the JB and Goldwater app and tell everybody. Craig, Adam, tell your friends. We know y'all are here every day. Tell somebody else. Both Adams, who we see in the Share Healthcare chat lines. You can be in the Share Healthcare chat lines as well, just like Jamie and Marion popped in. And your comments, we'll put them on the air. Make you a part of our program as we do every day. Follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, and individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. Coming up, it's Wednesday. You all know what that means. JC Shurburtt, owner of the BigSpur.com. He will join us in just a little while, and we'll talk a bunch of Carolina stuff with him. Obviously, tonight is a huge game for the Gamecocks at Colonial Life Arena against Mississippi State. We'll give you some notes on that in just a moment. It will be a difficult one, no question about it. We also have some other hoops to get to from around the country. Some Phil fallout is out there, and Phil has basically walked back or trying to walk back what he said, and it doesn't look like we're going to see him for a while, Darren. So we are definitely going to get into that. We'll get you a baseball roundup here in just a moment. For those that don't understand baseball, and I think we have a pretty smart audience here, so many of you do, but you will lose in this sport. You will lose this sport. And last night's scoreboard will tell you that. So we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But as always, it is great to see my dear friend, Darren Goldwater. It is a spectacular Wednesday afternoon, and it looks like the rest of the week is going to be wonderful as well. And so hopefully you can all get outside. Take us with you if you go. We're here till 2 o'clock. Don't forget that. Hey, Darren.
All of the local Dog and Ducks have patios that are beautiful. You got TVs out there, too. So, I mean,
Well done.
You can take us with you to the Dog and Duck. How about that? And then at some point, maybe you'll see me. Maybe you'll even see the family when we're there. It should be another good night of basketball. We already have a comment. DG, please pick against us. I don't know what I'm doing in this game.
Said
I don't. Oh, who said that? Adam?
Tyler. I'm with
you.
you. I'm with you, Tyler. Darren, don't pick Carolina to win. As a matter of fact, don't ever pick them again.
The thing about LSU was I was dead on. Everything I thought was right, which is affecting my thought process moving forward. Like, they had no business winning the game. Cousineau just saved them. So what do I think of that game? We'll get plenty more into it, but there's a lot out there tonight. Last night, favorites were 26-2 straight up last night. And we'll see if that happens again tonight.
Hey, that's what great players are for. Ask Kentucky. That's why you sign players. If your other guys have an off night, that's what great players are for. That's what I mean. I don't know that anybody expected Jermaine Cousineau to be a 33 points per game scorer. Nobody in the country is. But that's what you expected out of your leader when you came into this year, is Jermaine Cousineau to have nights where he would just kind of go off, and he did. And
he did.
Probably going to need that again tonight. You know, they actually might need to pick up a rebound or two tonight as well. We'll get to that in just a little bit, Darren. Again, the Share Healthcare Chat. Nice to see everybody today. Wow, things are hopping. Jamie, I'm with you. Darren, did you who picked that shirt out for you today? You need a new what do they call those?
Wardrobe,
Yeah, special
picker outer guy. I was looking in the closet and the two orange shirts were right next to each other. So for some reason I was going orange. It was just a matter of whether it was this or the other one.
Okay. Well,
they were calling me.
Yeah, I see that. I see
Mhm.
that. All right, let's see here. Marion, come do what has never been done in your hometown, or go to the Blue Bloods and just be another guy. That's how I see it. Must be talking about Gigi Jackson.
Mhm.
Well, okay, yeah. Has never been. I guess I'm thinking what has never been done in your hometown. What he means is staying home.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I get that. I was about to say. I mean, there's been some special things done in a Gamecock basketball uniform. We just talked about Alex English yesterday. Obviously, Senderio Stormwell, BJ Mackey. BJ Mackey's a hometown guy, but he wasn't the number one player in the country. BJ is from Irmo. But Marion, I hear you and I see what you're saying, and that would be a huge ordeal for South Carolina. Gabby the Pit Bull. All right, I like it. Got to ask JC about the unannounced welcome home and his status. I know the status, so am I surprised that this young man has not officially announced it to this point yet? Kind of, but not entirely. But hopefully sooner than later. So, but nonetheless, it's a good one for the Gamecocks. We know that. So, all right. Last night in baseball, Darren, here in the state of South Carolina, the College of Charleston took the trip to Clemson. They lost 2-1. Tigers struck out 17 Cougs at Doug Kingsmore Stadium to improve to 4-0. Clemson this year has only allowed 9 runs in 4 games, and those are 4 quality games now. Indiana is a good program, as built by Chris Lamonis before he left to head to Starkville, and then they beat the College of Charleston last night. And that Cougars offense, they got some dudes in there. So only scoring 1 run. Good night for the staff of the Clemson Tigers and Monty Lee. They are 4-0, and so they keep winning. The Citadel pounded CSU in North Charleston last night, to put that a little bit politely. 16-3, the final score. How about the Dogs' offense? 46 runs scored in their first 4 games. No offense to Charleston Southern, no offense to Fairleigh Dickinson. Those aren't necessarily top-notch opponents with a bunch of top-notch arms, but 46 runs is 46 runs, and Tony is trying to get his team some confidence early in the year, Darren. They're swinging the sticks well.
Yeah, it's really good to see. Just for my old ties to that baseball program, to having Tony on, and my respect for him and how open and honest both he and Blake Cooper were, saying, now this is the year, right? This is the year. They use the words like get the tradition back, those types of things. So it's good to see him jump out of the gates like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Swinging it really, really well. I'm actually planning to take my kids there on Saturday and go watch them play. And so certainly looking forward to that. And then also last night, of course, in Columbia, South Carolina beat Winthrop 7-1 to improve to 3-1 on the season. And they've got George Washington coming up this weekend. I got to give my man Scott Wingo some credit here. I got to give him some credit because he hit the nail on the head on Monday. I mean, they ducked out of the way of 4 or 5 pitches last night. I was listening to the game. Mad props and a big crazy shout out to Coach Stuart Lake. His second time in the booth this year. He's doing some TV, radio stuff for the Gamecocks alongside. It depends on who he'll be with up there from time to time. But Drew Meyer is going to be in the booth, Kip Balt Knight, and those guys as well, and fill-in roles. So he was in there with Tommy yesterday. Hey, he's a natural. A natural. You know Coach Lake. Coach Lake's one of the finest guys out there, and he's an incredible baseball mind. But it is really, really cool to have a coach up there in the booth. It actually reminds me a little bit. I've said this before to Coach Tanner. Coach Tanner used to, and I don't know if he will or not this year, but Coach Tanner used to from time to time pop in and and help out Tommy when Derek couldn't get in there or whatever. Because of basketball or whatever it would be. And Coach Tanner would sit up there and kind of be a color guy. Coach Tanner, I mean, he's a guy who sees the game 2 and 3 innings ahead of where it is. I mean, that's just how he is. And you can hear that in Coach Lake as well. I love hearing coaches in the booth because they know the ins and outs, so they can describe the little details for you that you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, Coach Lake, if you're watching or listening, mad props. That was he's good. He's good.
I didn't catch any of it, but now I want to, because I spent enough time with the guy. I do think he would be good. I haven't heard it, but it's not just a coach. It's a guy who can then make sense of it, in a concise fashion, get in, get out when you're supposed to get out, and make the game more enjoyable, right? If you're learning something, then that's the goal. And when you've got coaches who just drop in like that, it's awesome. But next time he's on, let me know, because I want to catch it.
Yeah, dude. I don't really know, but I don't really know how they schedule him. But next time I hear him on there, I'll definitely let you know, because he's good. And you're right. He does a good job that he gets in.
Doesn't surprise me. Yeah, doesn't surprise me. He's good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So there you go. That's what happened last night in baseball in the state. And then across the country, what I alluded to lead off the program here. Look, man, you're going to lose games in college baseball. 11th ranked Arizona last night got beat by Grand Canyon 19-3. All right, it's going to happen, especially in today's age of baseball. You get arms work and things like that. A lot of these guys, you're always going to take the game seriously, but you're really playing for other things. You're playing for weekends. You're playing for conference play. You're trying to get some dudes defined in their roles, and sometimes it'll slip away from you. And last night, it more than did that for Arizona. You had Oklahoma State go take 2 of 3 this weekend from Vanderbilt in Nashville, and then they lose last night to Sam Houston 6-3 in 10 innings. I mean, it's baseball. It's going to happen. 19th ranked Georgia Tech, they went, good for them, to Georgia Southern to play on a weeknight. They got beat 10-6, the final score there. So some ranked teams across the country falling. Jacksonville beat 10th ranked Florida State last night. Again, this is college baseball, so things are going to happen. To Craig's point, Carolina needs to stop stranding so many runners. That's true, and hopefully they can get that figured out. It's early in the year, and so they got to work through some of the kinks. But to credit Scott Wingo and what he said Monday, Darren, on our program, and I heard Stewart say it a few times last night. Oh man, that's 4 or 5 hit pitches we should have had. He just ducking out of the way. I started laughing. I thought, because the cat throwing for Winthrop last night, he was barely breaking a pane of glass, and those are the worst. Like, I would have rather hit against 90. I hit against Matt Wieters. All right, Wieters threw 95, 96. I didn't love it, but you'd rather see 95 or 96 than 75.
Yeah.
It sucks.
It speeds you up. It throws you off. It could throw you off for like a game or two, because it's not what you're used to seeing. But then, I mean, look, if he hit the nail on the head and then they're doing it again last night, how many times are they going to get hit this weekend? We should set the over-under, because if that was his complaint on Monday and then they ducked out of stuff last night, we should put an over-under on throughout the weekend. 5.5 hit batters.
That's a good number. I was going with 4.5. So
all
5.
Right.
Let's up it to 5.5, because I hear Scotty now. I mean, dude, like what? What the heck? I mean, dude, like it's just him to a T. I mean, dude, what are you doing? Like, dude, just take it. You'll be fine. Just it's not gonna hurt, man. Like, I mean, shoot. That's yeah. So there you go. They won though. They won 7-1. And I didn't mention it in this Citadel game. Props to Cole Simpson. He hit 2 balls out of the yard. He almost hit 3. So the Dogs' bats are hot early here in the season. Share healthcare chat lines. Adam, I was that 70-75 lefty with lots of, oh God. Yeah, you were a guy I just wanted to punch in the face. I could never get a higher philosophy. Well, the thing, to talk a little baseball here before we move into hoops, Darren, if there's a guy who, and I'm not going to speak for every coach out there, but generally, if you're like a mid-80s type guy in college, you're going to have coaches who they're obviously going to want you to perfect your speed stuff, but they don't want you to try to throw harder. Like, there's this mindset amongst youngsters that well, you got to throw harder. You got to, well, not 90 isn't even 90 anymore. Like you got to throw 95 now to be considered really throwing hard. When I played, if you threw 90, you threw hard. That's just not the case anymore. So like if you're not 92, 93 plus, it's better to stay under bat speed. Honestly, it's better to stay under bat speed and figure out your off speed stuff. And that's kind of how you can find a role.
Otherwise, you're a BP pitcher. Like you're either up there or go below it. Otherwise, you're
a 5 o'clock guy.
Come on, here you go.
Yeah, we just saw you 2 hours ago at 5 o'clock. This is great. So yeah, stay under bat speed. That's why some of these crafty lefties, you're like, why can we not hit this cat? He's 75. Well, because 8 out of 10 dudes that you face are throwing over 90. It takes some adjusting, and generally by the time you've adjusted, it's the 7th inning, and the next guy's coming in anyway. So that's just there you go. That's a little backdoor baseball conversation for you. But Wingo, I was thinking about you last night, man, as we were following along. All right, in hoops last night, Darren, I know you were all over it, so jump in where you want to, but UConn got a huge win over 8th-ranked Villanova at home. How about the resurgence of the Huskies program? Their 20th win of the season now. They're 11-5 in a really good Big East conference, 20-7 overall. We'll come back to that one here, Darren, in just a moment.
Yeah,
you had
one of the night.
Yeah, that was huge. That was
huge.
Yep. Absolutely. Arkansas did what Carolina needed them to do. That was go to the Swamp and win 82-74. So that gave Florida their 8th loss of the year. If South Carolina can win tonight, clearly Gamecocks will be 8-7 and ahead of the Gators in the SEC standings. And then this one hurt. And I got a text from JC Shurburtt. I fell asleep. I was trying to watch the game in bed, and I fell asleep. I think Bama had just gone up 64-53, and I said, well, that's over. So I shut it off, and I shouldn't have. And JC apparently won his bet because Vandy came back and covered, and they almost pulled it off. Alabama 74-72 over the Doors, and that improved the tide to 8-7, and the SEC dropped Vandy to 6-9. It didn't move them in the RPI at all. Really didn't move Bama either. Carolina's got Bama up next in Coleman Coliseum in T-Town. So I was anxious to see what would happen in the game, Darren. But the Doors almost came back and shocked them. They just couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Vanderbilt, but I'm certainly not sold on Alabama on the road. So I had the over in that, so I was good there.
Give me I know you've seen them. I've seen them twice. I've seen 3 games, well, maybe more, but 3 that I can remember of Alabama. That last night, Auburn, and I think maybe an LSU game or something. Give me a scouting report of them. Are they just kind of still throwing them up from long range, and if they're hitting, they're going to win?
I'm going to pull up some of their numbers now to give you a little bit more intelligent answer to that. But they're the NATO's team that you remember, especially at home, right? I mean, the snapshot that I think you remember is the Auburn game and how they got after him defensively in the Auburn game. They are remarkably efficient offensively. They're grabbing 1 million rebounds, and they're not taking as many threes. No, so they're much more inside. They're much more inside the arc now. But when they're home, they're night and day. You can almost say the same thing if you want to tie that into Mississippi State. Yeah. They only have 1 road win this year, and it was one of those last 2 games against Missouri. Totally different team at home and on the road. So, but I'm not a believer in Vanderbilt. I know they're playing better, but they're not beating the top teams in the SEC. So it was interesting to watch that thing just kind of muddle its way to the end.
Yeah, well, I'll give credit to Vanderbilt. They're not an easy out at all. No. Vanderbilt is, although they sit at 6-9 alongside A&M, they're not an easy out. Shoot, for that matter, I mean, honestly, in the SEC, Missouri and Ole Miss are 4-10, 4-11, respectively. I mean, Georgia's really the only team that you kind of look at and you're like, if we just keep our eyes open here, we're not really going to lose. Mm-hmm. Georgia did beat Alabama though earlier this season and
played Auburn tough too.
Yeah, so I mean, you got to give them some credit there, but Vandy's come a long way. Their overall record isn't good at 14-13. They're just scratching to try to get into any postseason play, but they could throw it off for somebody, and they almost maybe did a little bit last night for the Tide, as you mentioned. I just pulled up Alabama's schedule. Yeah, they don't.
I mean, they've got some loaded wins. They beat Gonzaga early in the year. They beat Houston early on in the year. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
They have some Baylor more recently. They have some wins.
Yeah. Carolina, A&M, and at LSU to wrap it up here in the regular season. So the Tide, certainly, if they get to 20 wins, they're in.
Oh, they're pretty much close to in now.
Yeah. So, but that game won't be until Saturday. Tonight, South Carolina will take on Mississippi State inside of Colonial Life Arena, and this is a real challenge. And Carolina, just like they were the last time that they faced them, Darren, they're riding a 3-game winning streak coming into the ball game. So they feel pretty good about themselves. I would say that this 3-game winning streak for the Gamecocks is a little bit better put together than the previous one they had before they went to Starkville, where they traditionally have had a difficult time at the hump. That game, though, was a disaster. They couldn't stop the Molinar kid at guard. The Brooks kid down low, I think he had, if he didn't have a double-double, he was really close. Overall, South Carolina was hammered on the boards. The Bulldogs had 41 or 42 rebounds, and Carolina only had 24 in that game, if I remember correctly. I mean, literally from the get-go, it was bad. They were down by, almost 20 points at halftime. They played a little bit better in the second half down the stretch simply because Mississippi State knew that the game was in hand. I mean, it was just over. It was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. Here, though, is what State is riding coming to tonight. They are riding a 2-game winning streak. Both of those wins are against Missouri, but this is what their schedule has looked like. They played 3 games in 5 days, and now a couple of days off, if you want to call it that. They played last Wednesday in Tuscaloosa, and then they traveled home Wednesday night and got, early Thursday morning back in town in Starkville. They played Friday night in Starkville against Missouri. They flew out Saturday for Columbia, Missouri. They played Sunday in Columbia, flew back Sunday night, and then yesterday, Tuesday, traveled to Columbia, South Carolina, and they'll play tonight. So they've been everywhere. And they've been the last week. There's been a lot of travel and a lot of basketball involved, and I'll be anxious to see tonight what those legs look like. 2 days off between Sunday and Wednesday. That's not necessarily unusual. You will have Saturday, Tuesday games throughout the season. That's normal. But the difference is they played Friday and Sunday. So 2 games basically over the weekend for Mississippi State, Darren. They might have some Gumby legs tonight, and we'll see if that plays into Carolina's favor or not.
Right. And like I said, they're 1-7 on the road this year. So throw all of that together with the reason that they dominated that game in whenever it was just a couple of weeks ago. They got into South Carolina so much defensively that South Carolina could never find a rhythm, and then Mississippi State just dominated the game because South Carolina couldn't ever adjust to that. If they don't have their legs, they can't do that. And South Carolina just faced the team that was trying to do that and had a lot of success doing that. LSU had a ton of success pressuring them and turning them over. Again, good thing Cousinard was there, but but my guess is that helps them a little bit here. Maybe they can take something from those 2 games, Mississippi State and LSU. And if Mississippi State doesn't have their legs for 40 minutes, they can't play the way they played in that last game against South Carolina. And if they can't, I don't know if they can beat them.
Don't say that. You're the bad luck charm of the South. Carolina, I got a feeling tonight is going to be James Reese's night to kind of snap out of it. He was pretty good against Mississippi State the last time that they played. Carolina only turned the ball over 10 times in that contest. That's a really good number. The problem was they couldn't hit enough shots, and they could not rebound.
Right.
So if you're missing shots, it will help you to at least get them back and get another crack at it. But if you're not getting it back, it's going to be a long night, and it was. So, yeah, this is a very, very interesting matchup. Gamecocks playing at home with a lot of momentum coming off of that big win and then everything else we just mentioned, Darren. I mean, I'll say I like their chances. What's the line on the game, 2?
It was 2.5. I mean, I haven't been following it, obviously, in these last 30 minutes since we've been on. But it's been fluctuating around 2 and 2.5. Okay. The sharp bettors in the market, they are on South Carolina. So that's factual stuff. That's not me. That's just the heavy money in the market is on South Carolina.
Yeah, it's at 2 right now. So JC obviously will have some comments on this coming up in just a little bit. We'll get his thoughts on what a win might mean tonight. We know if they win, it'll mean their 17th win of the season versus only 10 losses. It would also mean their 8th win of the year, and that would keep them right in line with Alabama, right behind the top 4. Auburn and Kentucky are 1 and 2 in the league, and then you got Arkansas and Tennessee tied at 11 and 4. Bama's at 8 and 7, and then there's now LSU, South Carolina, and Mississippi State. Just those 3 sitting at 7 and 7 because Florida lost last night, as we mentioned, and Alabama won. There were 5 at 500 with that record in the Southeastern Conference, Darren. So, if they get it tonight, that'll move them to 8 and 7. And then, as we mentioned yesterday, you're pulling for Kentucky to win tonight because they got LSU, and that would drop LSU to 7 and 8 in the Southeastern Conference, and then you would have Mississippi State at 7 and 8. So there would be a separation there by 1 game. Alabama, Carolina, and then LSU, Mississippi State, and Florida at 7 and 8 behind the 8 and 7s.
Considering the fact that they just beat LSU, because of that and because of the conversations we've been having about remaining in position to kind of put yourselves in position, this is the biggest game of the year.
Yeah.
Because it's a game. I don't want to say must win because that, I don't know, they're all important at this point. But you can't miss an opportunity here to get a Mississippi State team that A, hasn't been playing its best basketball, and this goes back to right around the time of that South Carolina game. B, has been playing a ton of basketball, so who knows how, like we just talked about, energized they are. C, is terrible on the road. D, if you want to go farther, is a get back game at them because you already lost once. This is a huge game. It is an opportunity right in front of them to take another step and then continue to lobby because that's going to be part of this too.
Yeah, in the words of Buzz McAllister, Kevin's older brother, A, 2, and D. Just having some fun with you there. The flip side of the coin is in the upstate, and Clemson is playing not well. They have lost 6 straight games coming into tonight's ball game. As a matter of fact, going all the way back to the NC State victory on the road in Raleigh, which at the time we thought, man, that's really good. I think the final was 70-65, and that was way back on January the 8th. They've only won twice in the ACC. They've only won twice overall, for that matter. Pittsburgh and Florida State. They're going to try to get over the hump tonight against Wake Forest. Wake's the 3-point favorite coming into the game. Wake is good. They're 11 and 6 in the league this year, 21 and 7 overall. So Clemson is at this point in time staring their 7th straight loss in the face if they can't figure out how to clear those hurdles. And there have been plenty of hurdles for the Tigers right now. Anything regarding the postseason is not in the picture.
They're going to have to go win the ACC tournament, and they're not healthy. One of the reasons for this slide is they're out 2 of their starters here. The weird thing is they've been in a lot of these games. I personally think their last game, the loss at Louisville, is the worst loss of the year for them. A, it just continued the slide, and B, Louisville, not good. That was, hey, if you're gonna find a way to right this ship, this is it. I wish I got on the Wake line earlier today before it got up to 3. I think there's a feeling of a fallout because of the emotion spent in the game against Notre Dame over the weekend. And how are they going to follow that up with Clemson in who knows what that environment's going to be like. It won't have the juice of the last game. So that's sitting at 3 right now. But I'll be stunned if Clemson just flat out wins the game.
I would too. I'd be absolutely stunned. College of Charleston last night went on the road and beat Northeastern. Northeastern's having a terrible year. Generally a pretty proud program, but just 7-20, only 1 win in the CAA this year. College of Charleston got their 7th win in the CAA, 15th overall, 83-72. The final score there. We got to run so we can get JC in here, but real quick tonight, Darren, I'm going to give you 3, and you tell me which one has the best chance of pulling an upset here. Virginia will host 7th-ranked Duke tonight, where the Dukies are 5-point favorites in Charlottesville. Providence at home, 11th in the country. They've got Xavier coming to town. Providence is only a 1-point favorite. And how about Wisconsin? They're at Minnesota tonight, and the Badgers just 5-point favorites against the Gophers.
I can tell you that the betting market would tell you that Xavier is the one to go to for those three examples. There's a lot of love behind Xavier tonight. I haven't decided my play on that. I'll play something on that, but it's probably Xavier.
One to keep an eye on in addition to that in Austin is TCU at 20th ranked Texas.
TCU. The points in TCU.
You're covering the 8.5 is what you're saying? Okay.
I haven't played that yet, but if I play it, that's what it is.
12:30, we're going to play around with JC Shurburtt, owner of thebigspur.com, when we return on the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance the new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And two others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Your online radio, the new online radio that makes you happy.
I got honeybee beating on my screen door. I got a little buzz in my head. So. Cause it come from a long line of sinners like me. La-di-da, la-di-da, la-di-da.
And you were listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
Don't cry for me when I'm gone. Just put a quarter in the jukebox and sing me back home.
I was listening to this song already this morning, JC. I called my best friend in the world, Mike Cisco, and I said, you know, something today feels like a Chief day. So we just exchanged old Chief stories and then told each other we hated each other and hung up the phone. That's generally how it works between two guys who've been friends for 30 years. Welcome aboard, the owner of thebigspur.com and our dear friend, because we're the three best friends.
That
JC
anyone
Shurburtt. All right, I gotta read y'all a text. Nice. I'm Darren. You're gonna be like, yeah, what? I'm doing this because JC's on, and JC, what's the weather in Chicago? Brief weather report.
17 degrees and sunny today.
Ow, that's nothing.
Hey, good for the sun.
Listen,
hey, it was 50 yesterday and poured down rain all day, and then today it's beautiful sunshine, but it's 17.
All right,
that's the high, I think.
Darren, we're 75 and sunny here. Hey, Red. All right, 75 and sunny here. This morning from my father-in-law in one of the neat places that I get to go to, not often enough, but often, Laramie, Wyoming. Good morning. -6 this morning. Low was -9 overnight. With the wind chill, feels like -29. It's a skinny dip day. Love you, Pop. -29 degrees in Laramie, Wyoming with the wind blowing. I'll take the 75 and sunny.
That hurts. Just hearing it, just imagining walking out and trying to breathe hurts.
Dude.
Well,
yeah.
I can deal with the cold. The wind, though, no. The wind makes it 10 times worse. I mean, the coldest I ever was probably in South Carolina was at a Shrine Bowl practice in December one year. And it was in the 30s, but the wind was like 15, 20 miles an hour the whole day. And there's one of those coaches that they're wearing shorts. I was like, so there are some football coaches out there that they don't care. They wear shorts no matter what. But that was I think that was colder that day than I ever have been in Chicago, even if it's below zero.
Well, there's cold, like when we were in New York, when my wife and I got engaged, which was right around Christmas in 15 or 16, that Chicago, those northern cities out west, but more specifically out west, because the elevation, you're so high in the air. So when it's zero, it actually doesn't feel like that at all. I'm not saying that it's not cold, but it is very, very tolerable. The problem is, like you just said, when the wind blows. I mean, it cuts through you like a knife. So, yeah, forget it.
It's like they say in Cool Runnings. It's not the cold that'll get you. It's the humidity.
It's the humidity.
Oh, gosh.
It's not the heat. It's the humidity. Sanka? Yeah, I looked like Sanka coffee one time out there in Wyoming. It was so cold. Robbie. Hey, Robbie, what's up, man? A few years ago, we had a baseball lacrosse games in beautiful Tigerville, South Carolina, the home of North Greenville. He said it was legit 1 degree. That
one
problem. All right, JC. So let's talk hoops, my man. This is although some maybe aren't as much as I am or as much as you are, this is exciting. It's fun to be at the end of February knowing that your basketball program is playing for something. And they are playing for something until they're not. They, as we have mentioned for the last, Darren, week and a half, as they have won games, they've continued to give themselves a chance. And they have another one tonight against Mississippi State, a team that embarrassed them, really, in Starkville not too long ago. But State comes in. JC, I mentioned their travel schedule a little while ago. They played last week in Tuscaloosa on Wednesday, flew home Wednesday night. They played Friday in Starkville against Missouri. They traveled Saturday to Columbia, Missouri. They played on Sunday. They got in late Sunday night to Starkville. They traveled to Columbia, South Carolina yesterday. They play again today. So they played 3 games in 5 days, and now they're going to have played 4 in 8 days. We'll see what their legs look like, but that's a lot on the Bulldogs. But it is, as Darren mentioned, it absolutely, if you have not necessarily for the NIT, they can continue to play themselves into that. I think at this point they are in the NIT. But if you want any prayer at all of being mentioned in the conversation for the dance, you absolutely have got to win the game tonight.
Oh, absolutely. It's a, I don't know that it's a win that's going to boost South Carolina into the NCAA tournament, but it's a win that you have to continue to try to make that progress toward that. I look at South Carolina's net ranking right now, and a lot of the projections. I mean, let's face it, Joe Lunardi is not just throwing stuff out there when he projects these fields. He's not. He knows his stuff. So I think to get the Gamecocks toward, I don't even want to say on the bubble, but toward the bubble. This one is just like LSU, just like Georgia and Mississippi State beforehand. I mean, they're all big, and I agree with you. That's a great point you made, JB. That it is good. We're sitting here on February 23rd, and there's meaningful basketball, and I think that's what you always want for your program that you follow or the team that you love and pull for is that you want to be playing meaningful games late into the season. And that's exactly what's happening tonight at the Colonial Life Arena. Watched a lot of SEC basketball last night. And Mississippi State, boy, they've struggled on the road. And you think about this, their only win came at Missouri. First time I've really watched Missouri last night against Tennessee. That's just not a very good basketball team. I mean, we want to talk about empty seats, boy. That's that arena out there at Missouri when they don't show up because they got the black and gold. It's tough on the eyes a little bit. And they had about 125 people out there cheering on their mighty Tigers, and they got slaughtered by the Vols last night. So, if that's their only road win, which is a struggle to beat Missouri. I believe that we will probably see a different basketball team tonight than we did in Starkville a couple of weeks ago.
All right, so I've been kind of following you a little bit the last couple of days on Twitter and on the message boards, JC, and you've pointed out a bunch of interesting nuggets about net rankings because we're at that point in the year where we know what they are, all right, but you don't really start to decipher and break them down and cut them up into pieces and really complain and moan about net rankings until you see this time of the year the lack of movement that can come with them at times. You feel like you understand it, but then you get to this time and you're going, well, wait a second. We shoot, Florida beat Auburn the other night and they fell in the net rankings. How the hell does that happen? So people don't understand a lot of why this is. What have you learned the last couple of days just in your research about those?
I learned that they changed in 2020, because they had this big announcement and there were like 5 categories or whatever. We all know, there was, win-loss, winning percentage, net efficiency. And then there were, bonus points for road wins, neutral wins, bonus points taken away for home losses. And in 2020, I guess they, I think this was before the pandemic hit, that season, as we were heading toward the NCAA tournament or the bubble, they changed some things. So now it's got there's a bunch of efficiency in there, and of course wins and losses and strength of schedule, and it's a little bit of high math, in terms of what all goes into it. And it was shocking that South Carolina did not move up. I think they've moved down in the last couple of days since the LSU win back to 94. But someone on my message board is probably smarter than me about all this, pointed out, because we have a couple of, basketball people that follow it and that actually dig into the Ken Palm and stuff. Pointed out Lenardi has Rutgers in the field at 80. At 80. So it's not necessarily, that your net could be too low. They say it's more kind of that's how they figure out the quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, all that. Now, the reason Rutgers is in is Rutgers has 6 quadrant 1 victories on the season.
And they're hot now. I mean, I know they just lost, but they just had a stretch of ridiculous play.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase it. They have 5. South Carolina right now has 2. Tonight will be another Q2 win because Mississippi State does have a pretty high net in terms of they're in the top 50, but it's still Q2 because it's at home. But the Q1s, they need Vanderbilt, who's 79th right now, to sneak up 4 or 5 spots to become a Q1 win.
And a Q2.
And a Q2. And then they have to get, I think, if they want to be cooking with grease, find a way to go into Tuscaloosa on Saturday. If you win tonight, it beat Alabama for the first time in 8 years. And I think to do that, guys, that Alabama team's going to have to go cold from the field. Because when they're shooting, they're really hard to beat. And I got a chance to watch them. Vandy gave them a good game last night, but boy, when they just start popping threes, it gets difficult. So, South Carolina. So, how many quad one wins essentially can they collect between now and Selection Sunday? And they have the opportunity, with Alabama and Auburn. The Missouri game, unfortunately, is going to be a Q3. Because it's at home in Columbia, but that's fine. I mean, wins still matter too here. And then, you go to Tampa in the SEC tournament, and depending on how the bracket shakes out, if you can win your first game and get a Q2, maybe a Q1 win, depending on who you're matched up against, and then you catch an Arkansas or an Auburn or somebody like that, maybe looking ahead, and you spring an upset there, and all of a sudden South Carolina's sitting at 6 Q1 wins. So that's how it kind of was explained to me after sort of going back and forth and panicking a little bit about, well, what are we even caring about if the net's always going to be down there? I kind of feel a little bit different about it. I don't like the net efficiency stuff. I think that's great if you're Ken Palm or Andy Katz, or, if you're bracketing the tournament and, how do we determine who's the better fifth seed or whatever? Other than wins and losses, you want to use it as a tiebreaker, it's fine. But to me, it seems like it rewards how you play more so than the result and the outcome. And it's almost like getting a style trophy. Oh, you played pretty today. You lost, but you played pretty. You played pretty. Oh, you're so pretty. Oh my God, give him some bonus points, Ken Palm. I'm like, this isn't a beauty pageant. This is a sporting event. That's why we keep score. Right. That's why the team with the most points wins. And I'm just not a fan of any of that being included outside of a tiebreaker type scenario. And the more I dig into it, unfortunately, that's why the Gamecocks are down in the 90s, because their net efficiency is brutally bad. Yep. But I mean, they're just not a very pretty basketball team, Clark. We just have to move them down. Well, of course not. Frank Martin, look at it is ugly basketball at times, but
but did they win? I'm not a big.
That's my thing about it.
I'm not a big tear the system down guy at all. But I would just like to see. And this really it doesn't have to do with South Carolina specifically. I mean, they're part of the conversation because we're having it about them, but I'd like to see a little bit more balance. Again, I used the Florida example. How did they drop 3 spots in the net rankings by upsetting the number 2 or 4 or whatever it was team in the country the other day? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, the committee is smart enough to take that into consideration based on what else they've done, but there's other examples like that out there, and we don't have all day, so I can't go through all. I just wish there's a way
explanation of Ken Palm here. So I'm huge into the Ken Palm stuff now, and so I don't need to go bore everyone with everything. But I think
Derek Scott's a big guy, Ken Palm guy.
Great. I don't have a problem. I have lots of friends that love it. I just don't think it should play a whole lot. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
I get what you're saying. I think a lot of people, when they hear efficiency, are like, what the hell does that even mean? So just basic principle, when you hear offensive and defensive principle, efficiency, it's points per 100 possessions or points per possession, depending on how you want that number to be, like a tiny decimal or, somewhere over 100. And to explain what happened with the Gamecocks and LSU, it was their worst defensive efficiency game of the year in a victory. Their worst 2-point field goal percentage defense of the year in a victory. And if you take out Kuznard, because that factors, all of these numbers factor in, they weren't efficient offensively either. So that's why there wasn't a whole big move.
But they won the game.
I get that. I get that. I'm just putting that out there. I'm just explaining it.
I'm with you, Darren, and I understand that, but that is why South Carolina isn't moving up with some of these wins very much. And I just don't know that that's, if they're going to count that, in terms of getting into the NCAA tournament. I don't think it's right because the RPI was kind of simple. It's like who you beat, where'd you beat them, and who'd they beat, And so it's kind of this big moving, you pulled for other teams and stuff. And if you look at South Carolina's, some people are still keeping the RPI, and South Carolina's 20-something points higher, in the RPI.
68 in the RPI.
Things. Yeah, and so it just –
they're guide points, like all of it together, and then
So let me ask you. To me, the efficiency thing is great for people who, are basketball junkies, the media, and all that, and the Andy Katzes of the world, but not to determine NCAA.
I'm asking, like, I'm not asking this, Darren, like facetiously, like I don't. There's like I'm not poking fun. I'm literally asking a question here. What if they're not offensively efficient at all in the next 4 games, but they win them all?
Well, and then they're going to keep going up because a win over Alabama, the way that would match up would theoretically, it should bump them up significantly. A win on the road against Alabama because again, that's another Q1 win. Yeah, and Auburn. So, but it's everything. It's everything together. If you just look at South Carolina's wins, there aren't a ton of really good wins. There just aren't. LSU's the best win of the year. There's chances now to get better wins and because of the situation they're in, more impactful wins and put themselves the way JC just laid it out in position to be right on the bubble or playing themselves in. But they just haven't had those marquee wins this year like some of the other teams have.
Let me throw this out there too. And JC, I know, I understand you got to be out today at 1:15. So as long as it's okay with the boss on the other side here, we'll blow off the break at the top of the hour and just roll you through. But let me throw this out there because I hear this often. JC, I'm sure you've seen it on Big Spur message boards or something. I haven't really paid as closely attention the last few days, but oh God, the Coastal loss and the Princeton loss, those are killing us. Yeah, but are they? Because I think I don't know that it's them. Like
I agree.
I think it's Florida State. Like Florida State is a team who just, by the way, is only 2 spots ahead of Princeton in the net rankings. I mean, Princeton is going to more likely, it looks like, win the Ivy League.
They're on fire too.
They are. I tried to tell everybody when they lost the game. I was like, y'all, I'm telling you, this team is. Look, the Coastal loss wasn't a good loss, but Arkansas has 2 quad 3 losses. But Arkansas has beat better teams thus far, right, compared to South Carolina. And then, here are the Gamecocks where they scheduled Georgetown, who, I mean, come on. Like, who saw Georgetown going 0-15 in the Big East? And Florida State doing what they're doing. Now at 107 in the net rankings. Like, I don't know what else you can do if you're Frank. They had 7 basketball players to go to Clemson and play with. I mean, like, there are some things there where it's like, oh, God, that Princeton loss is killing us. Well, not really. You know what I think is killing you is the fact that Florida State isn't good, and they were supposed to be good.
Oh, it's a lot like the 2015-2016 season, the great screw job is what I call it. People got on really got on Frank about that he didn't schedule the team that well, his poor scheduling or whatever.
He scheduled fine this year.
Well, now I'll go back to 2015-2016 when Springer's schedule got him.
Oh yeah.
Well, but listen, they played DePaul in the Virgin Islands. They played a Hofstra team that's supposed to go to the NCAA tournament and didn't. DePaul lost all their players. They beat Tulsa, an NCAA tournament team, and won that tournament. He scheduled South Florida, which was I believe was in the Big East at the time, or was part of a good conference in the American. They played Clemson on the road.
They had St. John's in Memphis that year too, and Memphis was terrible that year. Remember that?
Yep, St. John's up in Madison Square or Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, and then they had
they won that game,
a big time home game against Memphis, and Memphis tanked that season. And then the SEC didn't do them any favors either. But you can't when you have at Clemson a neutral site game in the Northeast against St. John's, a home game against Memphis, and you play in a tournament that includes DePaul, Hofstra, and Tulsa, and I think Florida State was in that tournament as well. They just got beat. How could you blame Frank for scheduling? And you make a great point, JB. Same thing this year. it's not so much that the Coastal loss, because a lot of these teams have quad 3 and even quad 4 losses that are ranked way up there. It's the fact that you look at it. Okay, Princeton is very good. They're probably going to win the Ivy League, but the Ivy League is, not a lot of great teams in the Ivy this year, right? So their net has never gone above 100, right? And in some years, Princeton's up in the top 50 or 60. You look at even Western Kentucky. They were supposed to give UAB and North Texas a battle in Conference USA. It hadn't really worked out. They're 4th or 5th. That would have been a better win. They're 120 in the net. UAB for a while was a Q1 win, believe it or not, at home, because they were high, but they're back to kind of a top 50, so it's more of a Q2. And Frank scheduled all those teams. So I don't. It's not that, like I said, the losses to Coastal Carolina are frustrating. It was inexcusable. It was a bad loss, right? The loss early to a team like Princeton, it's going to happen.
It's not killing you.
And then the loss to Clemson, I don't know how you avoid that, because, like you said, you're missing 7 players. But other than that, I think it's much more that Florida State was supposed to. I think they were picked 1st or 2nd in the ACC, and they're a 500 basketball team. Clemson's not very good. Western Kentucky did not contend like people thought. UAB's not quite as good, although they are very good and probably going to the tournament under Andy Kennedy. So, all those things factor in, and it's just unfortunate. It's kind of like, in 2015, 2016, you schedule a Memphis and a DePaul and a St. John's, and you don't expect them all to tank at once. So that's
what this is telling you. This is what it's telling me, at least. Darren, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you're Frank, screw that. Like, he's trying to schedule quality basketball teams. Screw it. Schedule the best teams in the country, because if you get beat by Kansas, Duke, and North Carolina in your non-con, it's not going to hurt you. It doesn't matter that you lost the games. It was Kansas, Duke, and North Carolina. Who cares if you beat Florida State anymore, or St. John's, or Memphis? Like, doesn't matter, because you don't really know those teams. Kansas is always going to be good. Just schedule them every year. Get beat by 30 points. Doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt you.
Florida State should be good every year. Leonard Hamilton's like one of the winningest coaches in the ACC.
And it's been, I talked to my friends down in Tallahassee. It's like a surprise. It's like a shockingly bad year. Yeah. Like, they didn't expect this, Yeah,
it was Carolina that did that, by the way. They should get points for that. Carolina sent them right into the crap.
When Carolina came back and won that game in December, I was like, man, this has a chance to be a really big win. Georgetown amazingly won the Big East tournament last season. And they had some momentum as a program. They always recruit well. And then, who knew they were going to completely tank? You scheduled Georgetown, for goodness sake. So, I just, it's just unfortunate. But if I were Frank Martin, what I would do is I'd play some like money ball with this. I would go to the computer science department, find a kid that can crack the net code, go through and compile data. Who are the mid-majors that typically have a pretty high net ranking, and schedule road games with them. And because even though the Coastal thing did happen, you're going to go beat those teams, and they're going to give you an abnormally large boost. You look and you see in North Texas. Well, North Texas is really good. They've been in the tournament. Obviously, without James Reese, they're still really good. Heck, schedule a road. Go play at North Texas a game, and he did that and it's crazy because he went to Wyoming a couple of years ago out there in your neck of the woods, JB, and they got beat by a terrible Wyoming team because it's the altitude and stuff. And then it's the craziest thing. You turn around 3 years later, Wyoming is one of the best teams in the Mountain West.
Probably the best team, the top 25 team.
By the way, watch that game tonight, because I think both those teams, Colorado State and Wyoming, they're probably both in the NCAA tournament. It'll be a good game tonight.
Yeah. Nico Medved, who used to be at Furman, who got the Furman thing going, is at Colorado State. Really good coach. So, look, man, it's just scheduling's been interesting. I kind of wonder in some ways if the South Carolina State game, if they added it back, if it would help them or hurt them. I don't know. South Carolina State doesn't have a very high net.
No,
but it would give them another win. I haven't heard of any plans to do that. So,
all right. So let me stop you there. Let me ask you that, because Frank was asked about it the other day, and Frank said that, and he's right. I mean, he wasn't lying. I get it. It's It's hard to get this scheduled. We've got league games, they got conference tournament, and what you don't want to do is have guys playing better. But that's all true. But like, don't you think that there's also kind of a part of Frank that he's not just going to say, it'd be disrespectful to say it publicly, but like, it's almost like, I think if we actually need that game, we'll make sure we schedule it. You know what I mean? Like, one more win would get us to 21 wins. Okay, let's play. We'll play 2 games in one day if that's what it takes. Because they're not going to, knock on wood. I mean, they're not going to lose.
Right.
Like,
you just need to do something. You start doing something like that, then it all comes crumbling down.
South Carolina State's like they're 308 in the net ranking. It's going to really, Darren, it'd be optics. It just be a win.
There's nothing to gain. It's one of those games. What do you gain? If you win, great. You should win, and you get a little tick mark over here because you got to win. If you lose,
what if you have good efficiency in that game? What if you win pretty, Darren? What if you win pretty?
Well, let me tell you, if they don't, it'll be catastrophic. So there's only more to lose if you play that game.
Well, I guess an ugly win over South Carolina State, and then they just drop out of the net rankings completely. They're like, that ugly win. You're not pretty. You don't belong here.
Yeah, but I guess that makes sense, right? If it's all about offensive efficiency, why not just call State and say, hey, look, I don't need y'all to score. Like, don't do anything.
Don't play any defense.
We're just going to beat you 100-0. We're just going to we're going to go 50 for 50 on layups, and we're going to be as efficient as ever, and our net ranking is going to shoot up 50 points.
Yeah.
There's that handshake agreement before the game. I would like to be privy to that information. I'll just leave it at that.
But I mean, it's kind of where we are in the sport, right? Like, look, man, y'all aren't doing anything in the postseason. Y'all are about to be knocked out. You're not going to be playing in a couple of weeks. Give us a crack at it. Just stand around. The computers only see the numbers. They're not going to see the fact that you were just standing around. You didn't even jump for the opening tip. Just give us the ball and just let us run up down the floor. When you inbound it to our guy, and we'll just keep putting it in the basket.
Deal.
I mean, seriously, this is like in football where it's like, hey, just stand up and let them score so we can get the ball back.
Yeah, the old stand up and let them score play. I mean, and that's one of the bad things about the or unfortunate things. Will Muschamp, who was the football coach, obviously at South Carolina recently, I thought he had a lot of things. I would not call it. I don't know necessarily if I believe in luck, right, as a human being, but just unfortunate, unexpected stuff. And I think one of the unfortunate things about Frank's tenure at South Carolina in the years where they don't quite make it has been the schedule. And I came into this season when the schedule was released and thought, well, I think he overscheduled a little bit because there's a lot of good teams or good programs on the schedule, a lot of new players. I was actually concerned, but then I saw, well, they have one out-of-state road trip before the SEC tournament or SEC play gets started, and that's to Asheville. I mean, everything else is in state. I was like, well, that kind of makes a lot of sense too. But, I admire Frank for going out and scheduling, but he has been betrayed. I mean, I look, Drexel got in the dang tournament last year, and when they scheduled Drexel a few years back, they were one of the worst teams in college basketball. I was like, it just seems like that. The year the year they put Wofford back on the schedule this year, right? And Wofford's just a little bit tick lower than they used to be. There's some years Wofford would have been a Q1 win. So I don't know.
And played them a couple years ago.
Yeah, at Wofford, I would that opened their new arena.
Nice
It's
arena.
a beautiful new arena. What I would do if I were there, I would just start crunching numbers. Like who are the teams that are kind of the net ranking busters that finish higher than normal that South Carolina could beat, and I would start scheduling accordingly. I don't know who that is, but you go and you need to start doing that and find some conferences, schedule some Mountain West teams, make them come across the country. They've got a better top to bottom RPI or net ranking this year than maybe Conference USA. So
Dayton and Loyola are my two. Sister Jean and the Flyers.
Yeah. Now the Missouri Valley Conference, there are options in there.
Frank has scheduled Norfolk State quite a bit over the years, if I recall correctly, early in the season, and they're usually like top of the MEAC, so they're like 179. So it's more of it's a Q3 win sometimes for them. So Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what needs to happen, but I do think the teams Frank has benevolently scheduled have betrayed him over the course. If you want to find something that's kind of unfortunate, I mean, nobody saw Florida State going, 500 this year, and
not at all.
I think
close.
Expectations were some. I don't know what expectations were like at Clemson, but
better than this.
Yeah, I mean, I just that it's just kind of interesting to me, but it is unfortunate because that FSU win could be a Q1 right now.
Yeah,
on a neutral court like that, if they were just
wasn't it when they got it
for a while.
Oh yeah.
There was a time Florida State and Miami were like the two hot teams in the ACC, and can one of these teams knock off Duke? And then Florida State just
now that's a quad 3 win.
Oh God, yeah. It is a quad 3 for now because they're 107. Yep. If they get back in the top 100, it goes back to quad 2. So that's terrible.
Boston College.
Yeah. So Carolina needs, Carolina needs Florida State to pick it up a notch. That'll give them another quad. But JC, you said the same thing that we've been saying around here. Vanderbilt, if that would have been huge last night for Vandy, but if they can scratch another couple wins and get into that top 75. That's going to give South Carolina another quad 3 or quad 1. I mean, they've got 2. Look, they need 4. They need to get to 4 at least. If you actually look at the net rankings of teams being considered for the NCAA tournament, pretty much everybody who has 4 or more quad 1 victories, I think maybe except for one team out there. I don't know. I can't remember who it was now. Is probably going to be in. I think it was Kansas State. They're 4-10 versus quad 1 programs. Everybody else with 4 quad 1 wins or more, they're as of now, I think they're all projected in. So they got to find a way to get 4 on that resume.
I mean, and I don't know. I mean, with like UAB's probably not getting back to the top 30, so that's going to kind of remain. If Vanderbilt could somehow go on a run now, unfortunately they play at Mississippi State, they play Florida at home, and they play at Ole Miss. Probably be helpful for the Gamecocks, for the Gators to they lost last night to Arkansas, to kind of have a collapse and maybe come back and be out. So pull for Vandy to beat Florida and pull for them to somehow find a way to win at Mississippi State, Mississippi. And I think Vandy could get up, and at the same time, though, you can't have Texas A&M go in the tank either, because that's also kind of a Q1 win. So I would definitely just pull for Vanderbilt to try to make it up. I don't really see a scenario where Ole Miss can jump 27 spots or whatever, but at Georgia especially not, but that's kind of what I would do if I were the Gamecocks. I just think you got to be a big Vandy fan and Aggie fan from here on out.
I'll give you hope with that Vandy thing. Right when you said that, my thought was, I bet they could be favored against Florida. And right now, Ken Pom would have them favored. Obviously, Ole Miss is a winnable game for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows how they play against Mississippi State, but there are wins out there for Vanderbilt. It's possible.
Yeah, A&M last night, big win over Georgia by 14, and then they're at Ole Miss, at Bama, but then they got Mississippi State at home, and as we all know, the Bulldogs – I hope I'm not jinxing the Gamecocks tonight. Bulldogs are terrible on the road. So A&M is probably going to be on the safe side of that Q1 win. And if they can get Vandy to count toward that. And then, you've got Auburn and Alabama on the road. Obviously, those are huge, potentially huge victories.
Yep.
If you could do that. I think the Gamecocks don't match up with Auburn, but not a lot of teams do, honestly. I think they match up with Alabama, but if Alabama's shooting the ball and they do a good job at home down there, it's dicey. If it was in Columbia, I'd feel a little bit better about it, but down there it gets dicey. So
you're not going to be able to run around Coleman Coliseum in man. They're going to end up having to switch back to that zone when they go to Tuscaloosa on Saturday, and they're going to have to hope it works.
Got to really, really pray that for the basketball gods, Spur used to say football gods smiled on Carolina Day. Football gods smiled on the Gamecocks. I would, you got to hope the basketball gods smile on you down in Tuscaloosa, because like I said, I think if Alabama's shooting the ball cold from the floor, Carolina can, get some shots out of Stevenson and Reese, and those guys can have good games, and Cousinard and all that. I mean, I think they could go in there and win. I don't know that they're Auburn could be overwhelming, on senior day in that environment with that team. But Alabama, if they can go cold, I think they got a shot. But, it all starts tonight, obviously.
All right, real quick, I do want to slip a football question in the final 5 minutes before we let you run. I see the Macandino guys. Do we make the tournament as a top 6 SEC team record-wise? I would answer that question like this. I think it's going to depend on whether you're a top 6 SEC team after the SEC tournament. When you add up all of the games that are played, including what is played in the SEC tournament, because right now South Carolina clearly is not considered in. Mississippi State and Florida are teams that are outside of the bubble trying to get inside of the bubble. Alabama is probably in, and LSU is probably in, but teams could play their way in and they could play their way out. So it's more than likely what happens in the next couple of games, there's going to be more decided in the SEC tournament. And then if you're a top 6 team after the SEC tournament, top 4 are in, but the next 2, if not 3. I don't see the SEC guys get more than 7. I think they'll get 6, but they could get 7, but I don't think they're getting more than 7.
Yeah, 7 would be the max. Lenardi has Florida as his part of his next 4 out, along with Kansas State, Oregon.
Was that before last night or after?
It's probably
before.
Probably before last night. The Gators lost it. No, update. Oh, yeah, okay. It was updated yesterday morning, so that probably would bump the Gators back off the next 4 out line. And, I have no idea where the Gamecocks are, but I don't see Mississippi State here either. So, it probably will take a couple of more wins in the regular season than probably – Frank historically has not been great in the SEC tournament, but there have been years where South Carolina has won a couple of games in that tournament. So we'll see.
I think it's 21. I think it's that number's been up to 21. Would probably be 20 if Florida State was worth a crap, but they're not. All right. Before I get you out of here, Jody Wright introduced on Monday as the tight ends coach at South Carolina. Boy, JC, it's hard to not like him. He is a very likable guy. When you listen to him talk, good old Southern boy, which I like that. But you could see it on his face. I don't know if this is going to transition to him being a hell of a tight ends coach or what. But you could see on his face how genuinely excited he was to sit there. And he said the word 15 times, how excited he was to be a Gamecock. Your initial reaction and thoughts on Shane's newest hire?
Yeah, I thought, obviously, how could you not enjoy the press conference and, just how he comes across and who he is. And like I said, I don't, I know a lot of people out there, in the college football scape, I guess is what it's called. I didn't know Jody Wright, but I know a lot of the same people he does, and nothing but tremendous feedback on, what he brings to the table as a coach, as a human being, a recruiter, obviously. And I think he's, you talk about that word fit. I think that, Shane Beamer, just like any head coach, has to hire people that he considers fits for his staff. And, I don't know that you could have found a better fit than Jody Wright, given his familiarity with all the personnel at South Carolina and all that good stuff. So we'll see how he does. There's a lot of talent for the 2023 cycle in his home state. And he's got some important territories.
He's got a lot of territory.
Georgia and South Carolina too. Yeah. We basically took Kimry's Kimry had Richland, Lexington County, I think, like Greater Columbia. And then he had the Gwinnett, Hall County, Northeast Georgia area, Oconee, Athens, all that. Mm-hmm. And then of course, Jody, I think will end up working in Alabama.
Yeah.
Quite a bit too. And Mississippi. So that's a big territory, but your tight ends coach has to really have that, and this staff recruiting sort of evolving from the standpoint, and it kind of started, I started noticing this with Muschamp and his group. It seems you do have like an on the road recruiter, an area recruiter that gets things rolling. but quickly the position coach ends up taking the lead. So I think it's going to be interesting there.
Certainly, we'll be anxious to find out how it all plays itself out. Final quick one here. Have you heard anything at all on Devontae Holloman? We were put in a little strange spot last week talking to Shane when I asked him about Devontae. He said, yeah, that was a bogus report. We hadn't hired him. We didn't really expand on it because I don't think he really wanted to talk about it. But are you hearing anything? Are they expected to hire him?
I think they're trying to work through some things with the rules. I would be more surprised if ultimately he was not part of the staff than I would be if things, if he was. Well, let's just put it that way. And yeah, I mean, it is kind of interesting because those reports, I mean, it wasn't just us that reported. Everybody kind of reported.
Everyone had it. Yeah.
So,
but
I think it has to do with him coaching Omega Blake and those rules. I think you have to be specific. You have to be really careful about, the interpretation of those rules because, I read them and I read that they were going to be relaxed a little bit. And then I also read, and then Tony had a good explanation that was given to him. And you just have to make sure that you're not inadvertently doing something crazy that's going to cause, Omega Blake, who I think people need to kind of pay attention to.
I agree.
Possibly this spring, anything to prevent him from playing this season.
Yeah, he's got a chance to be pretty good. He's a name under the radar name right now to keep an eye on. A lot of ability.
Yeah.
Hey, look, you know what? Set up whatever bogus NIL junk you want to set up in some back room somewhere, but don't let that coach come here since his player's here. Oh God, but we can give him $10 million to do a commercial for a car dealer.
Influence. They influenced this young man. I mean, I think Carolina beat Syracuse on Omega Blake, so yeah, the orange. Dino Babers is going to get upset. Well, hey, look, I'm going to tell you this right now. The high school class of 2021 obviously was a lot. The JUCOs they're part of Muschamp leftover players, and of course some guys that the new staff brought in. But check this out, and I think these were all Muschamp recruits actually. TJ Sanders from Marion, the D lineman that redshirted last year, he's going to be really good. Omega Blake, you've heard obviously great things about. We know what Juju McDowell can do. Colby Fields, who the new staff got, just transferred back to his home state and is going to LSU. And then I've heard some really good things about Nick Barrett too, who's also like a Rhodes Scholar, or a presidential scholar, or whatever.
Wow.
So that little class, I mean, there are some guys I don't think are going to play a whole lot in it, but to be as transitional as it is, you're starting to hear a lot of names, that weren't non-transfer portal names, because obviously, getting David Spalding and Jordan Strawn and EJ Jenkins and Amarian Brown and all those guys from the portal. David Spalding was a huge part of that class, but these high school guys that part of them were the old staff, part of them the new staff. Only about 10 of them. They're looking statistically pretty strong right now.
Well said, JC Shurburtt. We're going to cut it a little bit short today. We know that you've got a couple of things to attend to.
Carpool.
That's coming for me soon.
Dad life is tough, JC. It's tough.
It's a be good guy syndrome, I got to go pick up the kids. And you take it and you pick up the kids and you go to the grocery store and No, I got that. So I'm running up against that, guys. But certainly,
you run on, my friend. You just run away, run and do what you need to do. I got to run to the store too. I'm getting steaks and pork chops.
Wow.
Yeah, steaks tonight, pork chops tomorrow night. I'll send you.
Now that the snow is off the deck out back and melted, because it melted yesterday. It's 17 degrees. Well, who am I talking about? What am I talking about?
Yeah, get it.
Not stay inside. So
the BigSpur.com is where you want to go. So much, and tonight they'll have you covered with hoops. Carolina hosting Mississippi State. JC, thank you, brother.
Hey, thanks, guys. Y'all have a great one.
Always. There you go. JC Shurburtt, owner of the BigSpur.com in Chicago, Illinois. Who said that earlier? beef sandwich comment. Was that you, Adam? I didn't say anything about beef sandwiches. I intentionally didn't, just because you said that in our share chat lunch.
As soon as I saw that, that was my thought. Like, oh, well, now it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not saying a word. You don't. Come on now. I will say this: Ike Hilliard has been named the wide receivers coach at Auburn University under Brian Harsin. Anybody remember watching Ike Hilliard play in Steve Spurrier's offense at Florida? Holy smokes, he was good. Those were, Darren, you didn't have to be a Gators fan to want to watch the Gators when they were in their prime under Steve. And you certainly, because I know I didn't have to like Steve to want to watch the Gators. They were just a blast to watch. And Ike Hilliard was one of those cats who you watched him play and you're like, dude, this guy, nobody can stop this dude. And they generally couldn't.
I remember more from the Giants. Like, as soon as I hear Ike Hilliard, I think Giants.
Yeah, I had him. I don't play fantasy anymore. I hadn't played in probably a decade. But back when I was in college, we'd play fantasy, and I had him a couple of times. He was a good fantasy guy for you. Always got you some points. I don't know if they're still the same way or not, but yeah, he was one of the ones down there. Ike Hilliard and Riche Caldwell. There were so many wide receivers that came through there. And so now he's coaching for Brian Harsin, a guy who we thought was going to get fired about maybe a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
It'd be fascinating. But heading into the offseason, it was the most fascinating offseason, and beginning of the year will be Clemson with all their staff changes. Auburn is neck and neck with them. Like, what in the world is going to happen there?
Who do you just promote to OC? Was it an analyst? Did he just promote her to OC over there? He promoted within.
It was another one. It was a Boise State guy.
Yeah, figured that.
Yeah. Okay. I know that.
I didn't recognize the name, and I figured it was somebody that came with him. I thought it was an offensive analyst that he said, well, you're going to be the OC now. I'll have to check it out. But that will be a fascinating watch, Darren, for the Tigers. All right, it is 1:20 on this. Again, it's just an outstanding Wednesday afternoon. Jamie, I know that you are in town, so get your rear end over to a Dog and Duck today and enjoy a cold brewski outside. I'm sure you'll catch Darren there if you head to the one on Long Point. But the Dog and Duck's got you covered on Wednesdays. Remember, they have those Smash Burger Brown Bag Wednesday deals, and they are really, really good. So if you're in the Low Country, that's probably where you want to go hang out, maybe watch some hoops this evening, because it's going to be really, really nice out there. And they'll have good cold beer, and they have liquor too. Good news. So, all right, let's hit a timeout. When we return, we've still got to get to Phil Mickelson, and we got some more football as well. We'll dabble in some hoops. We'll get you out of here on this beautiful, beautiful day. We'll be right back. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, 125. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. Very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes not just cases, MotleyRice.com. Share Healthcare chat lines are open and active, and we hope that you will jump in them. I see you there, Jamie. I remember the 92 game that you're talking about when Spurrier's that was Carolina's first year in the SEC. And I remember there's Gamecocks had a lot of, that was a strange year. You had the revolt, players revolt and all that stuff. But the Gators only scored 14 points in that game. Carolina, as Jamie pointed out, lost 14-9. And then the next year, the 93 season, Carolina played them close in Columbia, and they lost like 36-26 or something like that. I'm not sure if anybody can remember that far back. And then Spurrier had pretty much had enough. that was all she wrote. After that, it was like 50-15, 60, the 63-7 game, I think, was in 95, and that 95 team, we thought we were going to score a bunch of points that year. He scored 1 touchdown in that game, and Gators hung 50-something on them in 96. The year they won the national. I mean, Spurrier just literally had enough. He scored like 200 points against Carolina in the next 4 years combined. And
when they had it rolling, man, no one was stopping them. I mean, the system was ahead of its time. That's why when the guys got to the NFL, the quarterbacks, none of it worked. It was the system down there was just. It was ahead of its time, man. When it was rolling, it was rolling.
I mean, honestly, who do you think would have won? Like if what year was that? Pete Carroll's best team at Southern Cal. 05? 05, right?
Well, Reggie Bush,
04, 05. Think if that team would have played Spurrier's prime Gators teams in the mid-90s, who would have won that game?
That's hard to say,
yeah.
Especially when you start comparing different eras. Because if you went closer to now, like some of the dominant teams now, I just said teams now, whichever team you would have just picked there, because size, speed, all that stuff. But those two, that's close. That's close.
Yeah. I mean, you think about how good Steve's teams were, but I mean, look at the era we're living in now. I mean, Saban has dominated the sport for a decade in a way that the Gators didn't even come close to doing that. Now, had they had a 4-team playoff back then, would they have won more than one national championship? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. It's I mean, I'm just trying to think in the last 30, I'd say 32, 33 30 plus years that I can really remember football, like the dominant eras, the Gators, the Seminoles. I mean, was there a dominant team of the 2000s? I mean, Florida had their run under Urban. I mean, Southern Cal had, a couple of good years, but there wasn't anybody that's doing what Bama's doing now or what Florida State and Florida kind of did then.
There wasn't a run like
Really.
what Bama's doing now. That hasn't happened in a while.
No,
the consistency of just dominance, or at least knocking on the door at a national championship, both of them combined.
I mean, who would you say the team of that decade was? Like 2000 through 20 or 2009? Stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's hard.
It's a mixed bag.
It is. Because it was waiting for someone to grab the reins and be that dominant team. There was a lull, and so maybe there was parity. Maybe that was the golden age of college football.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to pull it up here just to see. I mean, it was obviously the BCS era.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who I'd pick. I mean, I know Florida and Florida State, I would say, own the 90s.
Yes.
I
mean, those are clearly, as soon as you bring that up, yes. And I thought Nebraska is hanging around in there too.
Yeah. Miami of the 80s, I guess. Right? Here are the national champions from 2000 to 2009. Oklahoma, Miami, Ohio State, LSU, Southern Cal, Texas, Florida, LSU, Florida, Alabama. Yeah, I mean, it was
a mixed bag. Ohio State sticks out to me a little bit around there. I mean, I know they got one national championship in there, but once we got to 2009, basically 2009, that's when Alabama decided to say, "Hey, it's us."
I mean, if you're gonna conference of the decade, it's gonna be the SEC. I mean, they won 5 of them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there's a team of the 2000s.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, there wasn't the dynasty that we've seen before it and after it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a fact.
Give some credit to college football, the sport itself, for having I don't know, maybe for having more parity then than we do now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe it was the golden age. Maybe we just missed it while arguing about whatever we were arguing about back then.
Yeah, the BCS. You wonder what would have been different without the BCS. I mean, Auburn would have been in one year. What year was that? Jason Campbell. Was that 03? No, that wasn't 03.
I'm terrible with years going. Like, you can pinpoint plays and possessions of a game from pick a game and a date and a location.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't work like that.
What I'm trying to remember the year that, like, I think it was Auburn and TCU? Neither one of them.
There was something about TCU dropping out like at the last second.
I can't remember now. I cannot remember that back that far anymore. But
someone jumped over TCU, I think.
Yeah. I mean, because Auburn,
TCU won a game at the end of the year. Was that when they beat Baylor and then slipped?
I think they were undefeated and they didn't get in.
Mm-hmm.
But they would have been in the playoff, and Auburn would have been in a playoff. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't remember back that far. Before we get to Phil, I did just see, and this is really interesting, and obviously it's something that we're going to talk about as the season gets closer over the next few months. It is February. We are not close to college football season just yet, although I will say I'm anxious to see how some of this unfolds in the spring, and is everybody healthy coming out of the spring. But Brad Crawford with 24/7 Sports listed what he sees as the ranked the quarterbacks in the SEC coming into 2022. All right, the projected starting quarterbacks, if you want to call it that way. And so I scrolled through and I saw, man, he's got Spencer Rattler at 5. All right, which that's whatever. You think it's good, think it's bad, whatever. I was kind of surprised though, because there's just been so much. Like, if I had to rank them, I don't know that I would rank him higher than 5, but I was just kind of surprised. There's been so much buzz around him nationally, former Heisman candidate. I kind of thought, well, this thing's probably going to have him maybe too high, like 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that. But then when you actually go look at them, this could be, Darren, and I don't know. I mean, there's been some years where there have been some incredibly deep classes, but this could be the best we've seen in a long, long time. in the SEC if it plays out that way from a quarterback standpoint, like being the quarterback league in college football. And again, they all have to kind of live up to standard and all those type things. But this is what he has. He's got Bryce Young at 1, which that's clearly no shocker. Yeah. He's got Arkansas's KJ Jefferson at 2. And I don't know that KJ Jefferson has gotten enough love. This guy is really, really good. And he's going to be even better this year, now having substantial time in that system. But he's got Jefferson at 2. And clearly he's going to be a big time NFL prospect. He's got Hendon Hooker at 3. And you might think, what, really? Well, Hooker threw for like almost 4,000 yards last year.
Yeah, system helped, but he was great. I was talking about him most of the year.
He slips my mind often, and he shouldn't. And you mentioned the system. He's got Will Rogers at 4 because he's playing for Coach Leach at Mississippi State. So naturally, he's going to throw the ball 60 times a game. You know, is he a better quote unquote quarterback than those other 3? Oh, I don't know. And then he's got Rattler at 5. He's got Stetson Bennett at 6. Guy just won a national championship, didn't he? Max Johnson at 7 out at A&M. Remember, he transferred from LSU. And he's got Jackson Dart, the Southern Cal transfer, at 8, and he's at Ole Miss now. And this kid is really, really good. He's got Kentucky's Will Levis at 9. Miles Brennan at LSU at 10. Florida's Anthony Richardson, who everybody was all over this cat for the large majority of the season this year. He's got him all the way down there at 11. Zach Calzada at Auburn, the transfer from A&M, at 12. And then Missouri's Brady Cook and Vanderbilt's Ken Seals rounding them out. I stand by the statement I made months ago. The name Ken Seals of Vanderbilt to me sounds like a porn star. But he is a quarterback.
It's not at all where I thought you were going with that. Crawford also put out a ranking of projected order of finish, and he had the Gamecocks tied for 2nd in the East.
Did he really?
He did.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
With who?
I didn't get that far. I caught that not long before the show when I was scrolling through.
Probably with Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee. Would you argue that in the East that South Carolina and Tennessee are the 2 teams? Like once we get to July, those are going to be the 2 teams that everybody's got as the surprise type programs.
There is going to be a lot of buzz about South Carolina heading into the year, and a lot of it is
Tennessee.
Yeah. But the Spencer Rattler thing will regain its legs as you start hearing these preview conversations. It'll be what's going to happen. All the momentum from the end of the year. They went 7-6. They look good in the bowl game. Now you've got Rattler. They're that buzz which has died down now. I don't know if it will be warranted, but it's going to be back. That's for sure. They will be a popular topic.
Yeah, I mean, when you look like those 2 teams in the East, I don't know that people are sure yet of what Ole Miss will be in the West, although Jackson Dart is there now. But like there's been some people, I mean, JC, I just talked to him a few weeks ago. We were just talking on the phone. He's like, dude, I actually think Ole Miss is going to finish at the bottom of the West next year. I said, I'm not buying it. There's no way. I'm not buying that. But then when you think about it, like, okay, well, who will? Because it's not, I know who it's not going to be. It's not going to be Alabama.
Nope.
It's not going to be A&M. It's not going to, it's either going to be Ole Miss or Auburn, I would think. I don't think it's going to be Mississippi State. It's not going to be Arkansas, and it won't be LSU.
The question, right? The question is how does Ole Miss move forward without Corral? Great. There's Dart, but they lost more pieces than that too. I'm not going to pretend to be able to sit here and break down Ole Miss, but that's been a popular talking point too. What's going to happen now?
And what is last in the SEC West? I mean, does that mean you're 7-5? I mean, it's really good over there.
I'm trying to find that Crawford thing to figure out who he's got. Carolina.
If I had to guess, I don't know if anybody else has seen it, but the SEC's got a bunch of porn star names. Craig Jackson Dart. Yeah, I guess it does sound like a porn star name.
Absolutely.
Jackson Dart and Ken Seals. Vanderbilt versus the Rebels versus the Commodores, starring Jackson Dart and Ken Seals.
Starring.
If I had to guess, I would say it's Georgia and then a lengthy distance to number 2 between Tennessee and South Carolina, if that's what he's got. and
I still can't find it.
and then probably Florida, and then Kentucky, and then who am I missing? Missouri and Vanderbilt.
Missouri, Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. We got all that figured out now. Everybody can't wait till September of 2022. All right, 139 on the JB and Goldwater show, presented by Motley Rice. Causes not just cases. MotleyRice.com. If you're wondering where's JC Shurburtt, he had to dip out a little bit early today. So believe it or not, Darren and I know how to do this. We can carry you home over the next 20 minutes or so. There will be golf played tomorrow, coming off of last weekend's Riviera, in which Joaquin Niemann won the tournament. That was pretty neat. And we're starting to get into the prime time of the golf season. The Arnie is only a weekend away after the Honda Classic kicks off tomorrow down in Palm Beach. Matt Jones won it last year. But you will not see Phil Mickelson this weekend or next weekend, or maybe for the foreseeable future. I don't know when next he might be. Or might show up. I don't know, man. Maybe the players, maybe the Masters. I don't know what he's going to do. And I'm not going to read the whole statement. You can go figure it out for yourself. It's a lengthy statement that Phil put out yesterday. It's on his Twitter page. It's pretty much everywhere. But Darren, I mean, he can say what he wants to say. And I know that he did say he was deeply sorry and those things. And certainly appreciate that. I get it. He also said, quote, "There's the problem of off-the-record comments being shared out of context and without my consent," to which Alan Shipnick said, "Yeah, those weren't off-the-record comments." I'm not going to try. I can't stand it when the hot takers of the world want to jump into the minds of pretty much anybody and tell you exactly what they meant, because I don't really know what Phil meant, but it appeared if those words that he said were printed correctly, which it apparently, according to Alan Shipnick, they were. It seems to me pretty simple what he meant. Hey, look, I'm basically going to blackmail the PGA Tour for a bunch of slumlords, basically, in the Saudi Golf League, and I'm basically just trying to get change over here. I'm playing them is what I'm going to do. And he appears to be in total damage control mode. That's just what it looks like to me. He did say he was sorry, which is good. A lot of people won't come out and say those things. But now he's going to take basically somebody said, get out of the spotlight for a while and let this crap die down, is what's happening, Darren. But it's rough. And what I'll be anxious to see in the future, as I turn it over to you here and quit rambling on, is how do his peers treat him on tour? Like when they're paired up with him on a Thursday or Friday, and then again on the weekend, what are those relationships going to be like? Because pretty much everybody out there who has been mentioned for the Saudi Golf League, including Bryson DeChambeau, has said, "No, we ain't doing it. We're going to stay right here."
He's not well liked. He hasn't been well liked on the tour in a long time. I didn't realize the genesis and background of all of this until I dove into Shipnuck earlier today. Didn't realize that these comments were made to him. And he, by the way, who we're referencing, is a great golf writer. He is now with a different website. And he has been writing a biography of Phil Mickelson. So this conversation that went public recently actually happened 3 months ago. But then as there became more legs, when Shipnuck heard from his sources that the Saudi Golf League was getting close to 20, they want to announce 20, they want to do it, I think, on the weekend of the Players. Then, in his words, there was reason to share some of the conversations he had with Mickelson. Again, long-standing relationship. He's writing a book. There are lots of conversations here. And he felt it was important to share part of that conversation to advance the story forward. And that has then what caused all of this firestorm. There's thoughts, and we talk about this a lot, especially with Scott Glaze, how insulated the PGA Tour is. There are thoughts that there could be a suspension in there somewhere. So some of this stepping away isn't so much Phil saying, I really need some time away. It's also the tour. Think Dustin Johnson from a couple of years ago when he was gone for a couple of months and came back. That could be playing a part of this. My biggest takeaway is Phil. I'm not sure he's right. I mean, there's a lot of what he said. I mean, to essentially lay out how bad these people are, and then say, well, here are some of the positives about them, and then in this apology, some of it was an apology, some of it was saving face, and some of it was casting blame on other people. He wasn't in good standing anyway with a lot of people. He's not the most well-liked guy. This whole thing has taken that to another level. He has a nickname on tour that I didn't realize. Fig Jam. Fig Jam. The F word. F. I'm good, just ask me.
Did not know that.
F. I'm good, just ask me. That's his nickname within the ropes. So he's not a well-liked, well-received guy. Yeah. And this isn't helping.
Yeah, I mean, I see, Craig, I see you there in the Share Healthcare chat lines. Like Gene said yesterday, he's ruining his legacy. I mean, and it's hard to not think that, because if he could just be quiet at times, I mean, Phil Mickelson would go down as one of the greatest. I mean, he's going to go down as one of the greatest golfers ever. But, you know, this I find golf in a really interesting spot, because I do think from a competitive standpoint, it's as good as it's been ever. Even without like the prime years of Tiger Woods. I mean, it wasn't competitive then, because Tiger beat the crap out of everybody. You know, it was just golf was Tiger Woods. Tiger was golf. But now you've got a really well-versed group of players. The youth is really, really good and talented. But at the same time, you've got drama in golf. And there, it's not like there's never been drama in golf, but you're in an era where everything's accessible.
Yep.
And so, like, you know, with Nicholson and Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer, and you know, literally you can name any golfer ever in the history of the sport. When they were all, there's people on the tour that they didn't like each other. All right, I mean there was plenty of the great golfers that we even know today that did not like each other when they played for whatever reason that it was, but they didn't have Twitter, and there wasn't a camera in their face every time they took a turn on the golf course. And, you know, they didn't have Facebook, and they didn't have texting, and they didn't have all that access. So if you didn't like somebody, yeah, maybe word could get out here or there, Darren, but generally for the most part, like golf was considered a gentleman's game, because that's all we knew about. And it still is for the large portion of it, but you're seeing some of these crazy scenes like the 16th in Arizona and some of these courses in New York. They get wild. There's some action and stuff like that. But and then in the last couple of years, we've got this rivalry between Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka that has kind of grown. We've got this, you know, this Phil Mickelson. I think this is a mess going on right now. You know, so you've got real drama like in the sport of golf that isn't actually specific to the play of golf. It's to the players. And, you know, so I do think that although I'm not a big drama guy, so I don't really care for some of it. I do think it's good. I do think it's good for the sport, because fringe golf fans or just sport fans in general, or just, I don't know, people are going to see Phil Mickelson's comments and they're going to be like, dude, what's going on here? Like, they're going to want to pay attention closer. The big question is, will the PGA Tour change anything about what they do because of this? Or will they basically stick it to Phil Mickelson and say, you see what you tried to do there, Phil? It ain't going to work around here.
I mean, there's already talk. I don't know if it's finalized or what, but it looks like it's certain, if it's not completely certain already. I mean, if you go and commit to this Saudi Golf League, then you're not welcome back on the PGA Tour. That's where it's going if it didn't already get there. You hear it because it's still rare. Like the Phil Mickelson thing, it was I guess a well-known secret. I mean, for years, throughout his career, it's been a well-known secret that he's not the most well-liked guy. There was a public perception of Mr. Jovial, Mr. Phil, and this public perception that Tiger's a jerk, but behind the scenes, it was flipped.
It was awesome.
And that was kind of like a known secret. So now it's been a little quiet because the other villains of the game jumped up with DeChambeau and with Koepka and Patrick Reed. But that's where the list ends. So you hear it only because it's kind of rare. And now you've got one of the icons of the game going so way off base with his thoughts and rationale, and he's bothering, that is a mild term, a lot of the other players past and present. And he's already starting on shaky ground because they don't love him in the first place. He's not a welcome guy around there right now. I can't imagine any way that he's a welcome guy around other than like sponsors in a tournament and knowing that they're going to draw gate from him being there. But he's hurt himself here. And at the end of that statement, his, I want to step away. I think it would be wise, whether it's him stepping away or the PGA Tour saying it's time for you to step away for a couple of months. I think it's good for him. It doesn't seem like he's in the greatest headspace because none of it makes logical sense.
Well, it's amazing how quickly it's changed. I mean, he here in our hometown last year won the PGA Championship.
Mm-hmm.
And less than a year later, he's not basically, whitewashed from me. But I'll tell you what, even more than that, if his comments that he made about the SGL, if there's any truth in those, then he's really in a little bit of a pickle here, because you're going to have a better shot at renegotiating and re-imaging yourself in America with the PGA Tour than you are after saying things like, I don't even care if the Saudi Golf League works. I just want to get the PGA Tour to. Yeah, the Saudis, I don't think are going to take too kindly to you just hopping on a plane and flying overseas and saying, well, I'll take my $35 million to play golf now. They're going to be like, yeah, well, we're going to chop your head off. How does that sound?
I said everything that he's saying, I said all these crazy things to light a fire under the PGA Tour and get things changed for so he's going around in circles like a helicopter and just chopping people because he's insulting people all the way around as he tries to fix this problem that he created by hammering the PGA Tour, hammering the Saudis. Now you're trying to find some peaceful middle ground, and the only place it's going to take you back, and the only place realistically you'd want to be back, but they don't want you right now. He's taking a machete to a lot of stuff around him, and it will take time if he can fix it.
This is an interesting question from Adam, and I like it. Is he back in 40 something days for Augusta? So I think my answer to that is a little complicated because I have no idea, but this is just the thought that runs through my mind on this. My thought is, if you're Augusta and the tradition that you carry, you don't want it. All right. You don't want this around. At the same time, if you're Augusta, kind of want it around because this is something that can be a part of it. This is going to draw eyeballs and attention to your tournament. Now, with that being said, there is no lack of eyeballs on the Masters in any year, regardless of who is or isn't playing in the tournament. Everybody will watch the Masters. There probably has been dips in the past when Tiger wasn't in there, when he was going through what he was going through. But overall, generally, Augusta does fine when it comes to TV and things of that nature. The other side of it, though, if I'm Phil, I don't want anything to do with playing at the Masters. Nothing to do with it. I don't, because it is such a unique setting. And if you respect the game of golf, I think you'd remove yourself from it. That's number one. Number two, you're going to get hammered. And Gene said that yesterday. These guys, they all have an obligation. They can't just say, nah, we're not going to talk to the media. It's not the way it works. In Augusta, you're going to do exactly what you're told to do. That's how it works. And he's going to get hammered. And so in saying all of that, if I'm Augusta, there's a part of me that says I kind of want the attention because it's going to help us from a ratings, eyeball type standpoint. The other side of that coin for the Masters itself is I want the attention on the golfers that actually want to play golf in America. Augusta does such a good job of shielding the junk from the golf course. You can't even take a phone in there.
Yep.
All right. So they want to protect what they have, and I don't blame them for that. And if I was Phil Mickelson, to respect the game of golf, I don't know that I would play in Augusta, and I don't know that I would want to either.
It's a weird dynamic because everything I said about how he's not, well liked within the ropes, the fans generally, I have a lot of friends who love Phil. I don't have an opinion on him either, like one way or the other, but just casual fans, guys who are our age in the general age range, There are folks who love him. He would be received probably well by those fans when he's out there, because he can spin this by saying, all I was trying to do was make it better for everybody on tour. You're going to hear that from him whenever he talks. Phil is about Phil, and nothing makes Phil more about Phil or strengthen his belief in himself than winning another Masters. If he's allowed, and it's the Masters, not the PGA. The PGA can say you can't play in our tournaments. He can still go play in the Masters. They control it. If you're Mickelson and you have an opportunity to add another Masters, now he's not going to be a favorite or even around that list, but I think he's there. I absolutely think he's there, because at the end of the day, it's how many majors have I won? How many times have I won at Augusta? That's what matters to him. He is a supremely selfish guy. I think if he's allowed, and I think the Masters will allow him, I think we do see him there. I would be surprised if we don't.
Yeah, I think. Look, I don't know one way or another. I have no idea, and I don't disagree with you at all. I think the spin that you're talking about, Phil's main problem when it comes to that, Darren, has nothing to do with ever words that he says. It has everything to do with, do his peers support him, and they don't.
No,
they've all been out and been very outspoken about his comments, about his character, about his character, and so he can continue to spin it all he wants to. But when the likable guys on tour like Justin Thomas and Dustin Johnson and all these other guys are saying, I don't know what his deal. Rory was not kind the other day when asked about it. He was like, it's Phil. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. But it's not like they really were getting along anyway. Like they're not buds anyway. And he does, at the end of the day, he doesn't care.
Yeah, no,
that's great. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to see if I can't add another green jacket.
Yeah, I get that. I don't. I'm just saying, when he says, because you're right, this is what he's going to do. Well, look, I was just trying to make it better for everybody. Yeah, but everybody else isn't agreeing with the way that you were trying to make it better. Right. So your words are going to be lifeless. Nobody's going to buy that crap. If you had a Tiger Woods step out and say, look, I don't agree with how he did it and what he said, but I understand what he was trying to do, and I appreciate that fact. We just need to get it cleaned up and work together here. He'd have a little cushion.
You're not going to hear that's
not going to happen.
No,
but if you had somebody of that type stature in the game of golf who helped clean it up for him a little bit and said, well, I see where he's coming from. I just don't like how the approach he took.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have an extra cushion to sit on. He'd be like, okay, look, I made a mistake, but he gets my point. So that's what I was trying to make it. But he doesn't have it. And unless there's something totally unexpected, he's not going to get it. So he's going to be on this own little Phil Island here, and he's not going to have a way off of it. Time will heal wounds, and time will go on, and things will start to take shape for him again. But yeah, I agree with you in the fact that and I think Adam said he loves Augusta.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to play in Augusta. He's wanted to. I get all that. I just don't. I don't know that he needs to.
It won't be a comfortable. Yeah, it won't be a comfortable situation for him.
No, I think he'll try to play at least.
I'll be shocked if he's not there. I'll be shocked. But I don't know if Augusta if they can bend the rules and not invite him.
Oh, I think they can make a rule to not invite him if they want to. It's Augusta.
They could. Yeah, they could. Yes. But but a past champ,
they could Auburn themselves, man. They write the rules, put them out the next day. It's no big deal. Wait a second. I broke that rule. When did you write this? Yesterday. Oh, well, I'll be John Brown. There you go. Meredith hit the nail on the head. Augusta will do what's best for Augusta. So whatever they think is best, that's what they'll do. I agree with that. All right, on the National Day calendar, it is National Dog Biscuit Day. Take care of your canines and give them something tasty, please, for all you dog lovers out there.
I'm eating a dog biscuit. I like these little crackers, like these chips, but it kind of looks like a dog biscuit.
Well, yeah, you do you, my friend. You do you. Again, tonight is a big night for the Gamecocks. It's a big night for Clemson as well, trying to get off the schneid.
Mm-hmm.
But South Carolina is trying to stay somehow, some way in the mix. McAllister Fieldhouse and the Citadel Bulldogs, by the way, will be welcoming Wofford to town tonight. That could be a fun one.
Could be a fun one.
So we'll keep our eyes.
That deserves extra attention from me between now and then.
Yeah, keep our eyes on that.
Small line.
Charleston Southern is in beautiful Clinton, South Carolina. To take on PC. All right, thanks to JC and Darren, and thanks always to all of you. If you're in the Low Country, head to the Dog and Duck. It's going to be a beautiful day to enjoy a cold beverage outside and one of those smash burgers. If you're not in the Low Country, get outside anyways. It's 80 degrees in February.
Tied a record high down here already, by the way.
Fantastic. I'm going to go outside and just sit there. Vitamin, whatever it is, D. For Darren, I'm Jamie. We're back tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show, and we will see you then.